What's going on, Werepony? As ever, feels good to be back. Glad everyone's been enjoying my recent work. Today, as per request of user Will Atkinson, I'm going to be starting Curse of the Werepony by dlazerous. I'm really excited to see this one play out. It's basically a Rarity Spike ship. Surprisingly, I haven't done one of those yet, so this seems like a great place to start. But done with a twist that I hope everyone has fun with. This is 4 chapters, all of them very, very long, so I can't pretend to know exactly when I'll be finished with this one. But hope everyone enjoys enough to stick around through the whole thing. So I guess let's go. Let's get started. Curse of the Werepony by dlazerous. Chapter 1. Hearts are such fragile things. A mid-autumn wind caused dry and brittle leaves to tumble along the ground, landing at the base of the Ponyville Library. Growing close to the middle of town, the library itself was actually in the middle of a hollowed-out tree, which through the grace of magic was still alive and growing. At this time of year, leaves of brown and orange replaced the normally verdant canopy. Inside, the library was homely but spacious. Bookshelves had been carved into the living wood walls. The main area was for books and patrons to read or check out materials. Off to one side was a small kitchen, and in the back, up a few steps, was a dining-cum-reading area. Upstairs was set aside for the librarian's living quarters. It, too, was equally spacious, including a second bathroom and a few rooms for the librarian and guests. Off some of these rooms were balconies that gave a commanding view of town and the surrounding countryside. Purple scales blanketed almost every surface of the library. Spike, a baby dragon of 18 years, rushed around the library with a broom, trying to clean up the scales that continued to drop from him. Normally, the little dragon was covered from his round head to pointed tail with purple scales. Today, however, was not normal. His scales were falling off him like the fall leaves outside. Not even the smaller, lighter green scales that covered his underside, or the emerald green vertical scales going down his back, were spared. With how many scales he'd been losing, he felt exposed and was seriously considering getting Rarity to make him some pants until his new scales came in. Upstairs, his guardian, Twilight Sparkle, was sleeping peacefully with one such purple scale perched precariously on her nose, teetering back and forth as she breathed. The unicorn in question had been sleeping most of the day due to contracting a bad case of ponypox. Coughing in her sleep, the scale on her nose tipped into her mouth, waking her suddenly. Spitting the scale out, she called for her number 1 assistant. "Spike!" The young dragon ran to Twilight's room, dropping scales left and right as he went. "Yes, Twilight? Is there something I can get for you?" he asked, worried for his friend. Twilight was shocked at Spike's appearance. Except for a few patches here and there, almost all of Spike's scales had fallen out. "Spike, what happened to you?" she asked, concerned. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Fluttershy said I'm going through a growth spurt, and even though it looks bad now, my scales will grow back in a week or 2. Spike was excited. "I can't wait till my new scales come in. As soon as they do, I'm going to run over and show Rarity." "I'm sure Rarity will find them quite attractive," Twilight said between coughs. Spike became aware of Twilight's disheveled appearance. Any other day, the unicorn pony had a tidy, well-brushed purple mane and tail with a violet and pink strip running through them, but now they were both considerably unkempt. There were bags under her eyes, and her usually vibrant lavender coat was covered in little white spots. Even the star-shaped cutie mark gracing her flanks was duller than normal. "Since you're up, do you feel like eating anything?" Spike asked her. "Can I get you a glass of apple juice, or maybe some alfalfa pancakes?" "Thanks, Spike. Maybe later. My stomach feels a little queasy." She thanked him. "I can't sleep right now. Could you get me my copy of Ponies in Underland? It's one of my favorites," she asked. "Sure thing, Twilight." Spike scanned the bookshelves until he found the title up on the third shelf. Little help? Of course. Twilight tried to concentrate on lifting the young dragon to the shelf with her magic, but nothing was happening. I'm sorry, Spike, but with this headache I can't seem to concentrate. That's okay, I'll see if I can climb up there. I wish we still had the ladder. Too bad it won't be back from the carpenter until tomorrow, Spike said. No, Spike, I don't want to risk you falling and getting hurt on my account. She thought for a moment, then came up with a solution. I've got an idea. If you come over here, I can try to swing you up to the shelf, then you can jump down onto the bed safe and sound. Sounds like a plan to me. Twilight used her mouth to grab Spike by the tail and swung him up to the third shelf. Unfortunately, without the scales to protect him, Twilight's teeth cut into his tail and caused a small wound that started to bleed. Ouch! He cried out as he clung onto the third shelf of the bookcase. Oh my gosh, Spike! I'm so sorry. Are you alright? The purple dragon reached up and grabbed the book before jumping down to Twilight's bed. Yeah, I'm fine. It hurt at first, but I think it's okay now, he said as he inspected the damage to his tail. There was a small cut near the spade tip of his tail, but it didn't look too deep to him. At least I got your book. Spike handed the book to her and grabbed a small basket from the corner. Are you going out? She asked him. When I was at Fluttershy's this morning, she told me Zecora was coming over to help her make up a medicine that should clear up your pony pox. She said it would be done tonight, so I'm going to go pick it up and save Fluttershy the trip, he said. You know how she is about traveling alone in the dark. Yes, I know. She tries, but one of these days she's going to have to get over her fear of the dark, Twilight said. You've got to admit, though, she's come a long way since we moved to town 5 years ago, Spike said. Yeah, she has. I appreciate you putting forth the extra effort right now, Spike. I'm sorry I'm too sick to help out around here, Twilight said. You really are my #1 assistant. Aw, you'd do the same for me if I was sick. Will you be okay while I'm gone? Spike asked, concerned. I should be fine. I have my book, and if I get tired I can just lie down and go back to sleep. If she's not busy, have Fluttershy take a look at that cut. I wouldn't want you to get an infection. Will do, and I'll clean up this mess as soon as I get back, Spike said as he walked out the door. Night had already fallen in Ponyville, and many of the shops in town were already closed up. Fluttershy had been worried about Twilight ever since she became sick, and Spike knew no matter how late it got, Fluttershy would stay up working hard on Twilight's cure. The young dragon was passing between the fountain and town hall when he started to feel a little strange. Spike felt himself growing dizzy and used the edge of the founder's fountain to prop himself up. He bent double as a sharp, stabbing pain shot through his stomach. A full harvest moon rose above the horizon, flooding the entire town square with moonlight. As soon as the light touched Spike, he felt incredibly weak. His body convulsed, and he threw up the small snack he had eaten earlier. Falling to the ground, he clutched his stomach as another wave of pain coursed through him. The basket he was carrying rolled off, along with a few scales disturbed by the low wind. For a moment he thought he may have caught Twilight's illness, but that was impossible since he wasn't a pony. Spike's face contorted in pain. Everything hurt. His head felt like it was going to explode, and every bone in his body felt like it was breaking. His muscles burned, and his joints ached. Spike was in absolute agony. He believed his body was being torn apart, and just when the pain had become too much to bear, he screamed and exploded in a puff of purple smoke and scales. Spike slowly opened his eyes and saw Pinkie Pie standing over him. "Are you okay?" she asked, her brilliant blue eyes radiating concern. "Is that you, Pinkie Pie?" Spike asked. He looked at her through still bleary eyes. For a minute all he could see was a pink blob, but as they began to clear he could see her more clearly. Pinkie was not a pony one would call svelte. She was pleasantly plump, but not overly so. Spike had heard stallions around town say she had curves in all the right places. Her mane and tail were always curly and bouncy like pink cotton candy. At that moment, however, she had a confused expression on her face. "What happened?" "Do I know you?" she asked. The pink pony gasped in realization.
Are you new to Ponyville? You have to be new, because I know all the ponies that live here, and I've never seen you before, and if I've never seen you before, then that means you're new, and if you're new, then you probably don't have friends in town yet, unless you already know a pony that lives here. Do you know any pony that lives here yet?
Pinky, it's me, Spike, he said, trying to stand up.
Is Spike your name? We have a baby dragon named Spike that lives in town with my friend Twilight. Have you met Spike and Twilight? I just know they'd like you because I like you, and I just met you,
Pinky said, bouncing around him in a circle.
What are you talking about, Pinky? It's me, Spike. You know, small purple dragon, breathes fire, any of this ringing a bell?
You can't be the same Spike that lives here. He's a cute little bitsy baby dragon. You're cute, but definitely not a dragon, she said.
I think you've been eating way too much cake again, Pinkie Pie. Of course I'm a dragon.
Pinky pulled him over to the nearby fountain and pointed toward the water. Reflected in the water was a strong-looking purple pony. While his coat was an intense purple color, his eyes, mane, and tail were all deep emerald green. He had a chiseled jawline with a strong chin. Poking out from under his top lip were two small, sharp-looking fangs set at the front corners of his mouth. His hair looked a little spiky between his ears, but swept down into a flowing mane that draped around his left shoulder, and his tail flowed behind him like green silk.
See? Not a dragon,
Pinky said decidedly. Spike was shocked and stumbled back from the fountain. He fell on his rump, looking at his front hooves, trying to put it all together.
What happened to me? Why am I a pony? I'm supposed to be a dragon,
he asked in a panic.
Are you sure you're all right? You didn't hit your head or something, did you? She asked.
Pinky, how can I convince you that I'm Spike?
He asked, looking at himself in the fountain again.
If you're Spike, then tell me something only Spike would know,
she said with a suspicious look in her eye.
Remember that time I caught you in Applejack's cider cellar?
Spike whispered into her ear.
And to this day, Applejack still doesn't know who did it?
Don't know who did what, Applejack commented as she rounded the corner. The light orange farm pony was a lot like Pinky in the respect that she carried more weight on her frame than some ponies. The thin layer of fat she had softened her toned, muscular body. Her blonde mane and tail were always kept bound in the end to keep them from blowing wildly while she worked. Pinky jumped into the air in surprise.
Applejack! What are you doing out here so late?
I was coming to check on Twilight. Now what don't I know about my apple cellar?
I have no idea. Hey, look! Something happened to Spike!
Nice try, Pinky, but I don't see Spike anywhere,
the light orange farm pony said.
I'm not joking. I was closing up the store for the night when I heard a weird noise. I came outside and I found Spike like this,
she said, trying her hardest to appear genuine.
Well, that's a good one, Pinkie Pie, but all I see is this good-looking pony next to you,
Applejack said, smiling.
What's your name, handsome? I've never seen you around these parts before. You new to town? My name's Spike. Well, ain't that a coincidence? We got a baby dragon that lives in town here by that same name.
She leaned close to Spike.
You ever gone apple bucking?
She asked, fluttering her eyelashes at him. Pinky put her left hoof up to her forehead.
Applejack, this is Spike! Our Spike, she said.
Hi, AJ. I know it doesn't look like me, but yeah, it is,
Spike said, slowly waving a hoof. Applejack jumped back in surprise.
Spike, is that really you?
Her face, freckles and all, turned as red as the 3 apples on her flank. Applejack pulled down the Stetson hat that always seemed to shade her green eyes, only now it covered her face.
Apparently, yeah,
he said. The light orange farm pony composed herself quickly.
What happened to y'all, Sugar Cube?
The light orange mare asked, pulling on his ears, half expecting it to be a costume of some kind.
Ow, I don't know,
he confessed, wincing as Applejack pulled on his mane.
I was going to Fluttershy's to get medicine for Twilight when I started feeling bad. Everything started to hurt, and then I guess I passed out. When I woke up, Pinky was here and I looked like this. That's it? Nothing else happened?
she asked, prodding his shoulder with her light orange hoof.
Well, I got bit on my tail by Twilight. It wasn't her fault, though. My scales have been shedding, and she didn't know she'd cut me when she swung me up on the bookshelf. I don't know what a bite would have to do with it, but we'd best get over to Fluttershy's. She might know what's going on,
Applejack said, looking at the bottom of one of Spike's hooves. Spike took his hoof back and walked back to the fountain. Looking down into the water, he admired the way he looked now.
You guys go ahead. I think I'm going to drop in on Rarity. Now that I look like this, I've got a fighting chance with her again.
Whoa there, lover boy, the first thing you need is to get checked out. Who knows what changing into a pony's done to you, Applejack told him.
Yeah, you might be really sick, and if you're really sick, something bad might happen, and if something bad happens, then we'd all be really sad. You don't want to make us all sad, do you? Pinky asked.
No, I guess not,
Spike said, a little defeated.
Well, okay then, it's off to Fluttershy as we go. We can get the others later,
the hyperactive pony shouted. Spike and Applejack followed Pinkie Pie as she bounced down the road toward Fluttershy's cottage. From behind the curtains of Carousel Boutique, Rarity's vibrant blue eyes had been watching the town square. The svelte white unicorn had heard yelling outside, and when she looked out the window she saw Pinkie and Applejack talking with a gorgeous purple stallion, his green mane shining in the moonlight. She watched as they walked down the path toward Fluttershy's cottage. Rarity walked away from the window and paced her room tensely. Her expertly styled royal purple mane and tail bounced of its own accord every time she moved. The fashionista had a cutie mark of 3 diamonds on her flanks that suited her well since she incorporated gems into most of her designs.
Who is he? She wondered aloud. More importantly, why wouldn't they introduce me to him? It's not like Pinkie Pie to take an interest in anything but cakes and parties, but then she's a mare, I suppose even she has needs. Knowing Applejack, she'll try to get him to work on her farm. I can't let a stallion that looks as fabulous as him soil himself by bucking trees. Whatever the reason, I'm getting to the bottom of this.
Rarity grabbed a black cloak emblazoned with the same 3-diamond design as the cutie mark on her flank. Wrapping herself in the cloak, she left Carousel Boutique and set out into the night. The white unicorn galloped after Applejack and Pinkie Pie, but was careful not to be seen. As soon as they came into view, she began to trail them, darting from bush to tree. Rarity could see the hem of her cloak getting dirty from the off-road travel, but it was more important for her to stay out of sight of the others. Fluttershy's cottage was quaint and simple. With the heavily moss-covered roof, it appeared that the home of the yellow Pegasus had been carved out of the side of a hill rather than constructed on top of it. Birdhouses were perched and built into every nook and cranny that would support one. Under the bridge that led up to her home was a den for river otters. Everything about the shy Pegasus home was centered around the multitudes of small forest animals that frequented her cottage, and even though her cutie mark was 3 butterflies, she had no particular favorite animal other than her pet bunny Angel. Inside, the home was simple, nothing overly fancy or outlandish. The shy pony's residence reflected her personality, reserved. Her living room was comprised of a sofa, a small table, and a bookshelf holding books on animal care. A single throw rug sat in the middle of the wooden floor. Fluttershy was not one for unnecessary furniture. She preferred to keep her home as open as possible for her animal friends. Around the inside of her home, like the outside, birdhouses and other homes for various animals could be found hanging from the exposed rafters or built directly into the cottage structure. The kitchen of the small house, much like the rest of the home, was mostly empty except for the necessary cooking implements to prepare simple meals. This evening in particular, Fluttershy's kitchen was being used for something more than preparing a simple meal. Sakura, the town's local zebra apothecary, and Fluttershy were just putting the finishing touches on a cure for Twilight's ponypox. The yellow Pegasus' normally shy, quiet personality was temporarily suppressed while helping Sakura make medicine for one of her best friends. She was used to making medicine for the animals she looked after, but making medicine for a pony was new.
Thank you very much, Sakura. I don't know how I could have made this medicine without you,
Fluttershy said. Her bouncy pink mane fluttered beside her as she rushed to get a bottle to store the medicine, and even though her mane always seemed to cover one of her blue-green eyes, she didn't appear to have any problems seeing where she was going.
"It's not a problem, as you well know. It's off to Twilight's I must go,"
Socorro said in her sing-song way. The black and white striped zebra pony started walking toward the door. Her ample frame disguised her nimbleness and agility, as she'd been found on more than one occasion meditating while standing on her head atop a thin staff.
"Oh, thank you, but I couldn't possibly ask you to do more. I can take it to her. Even though it's really dark out there, I can do it."
Before Zecora could protest, there was a loud knock at the door. Fluttershy walked over, opened the door, and found herself nose to nose with a purple pony she had never seen before. Frightened by the sudden contact, she slammed the door in his face. There was another knock, and Fluttershy opened the door slowly to find the purple stallion sitting there, rubbing his nose with a hoof. She looked into his emerald eyes and couldn't help but blush and hide her face behind her pink mane.
"Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay? Are you lost? Is there anything I can do for you?"
she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Applejack and Pinky poked their heads out from behind Spike.
"Fluttershy, we need your help. Spike here's been turned into a pony, and I'm pretty sure Twilight's gonna need that medicine y'all have been brewing up pretty soon,"
Applejack said as they walked by her into the cottage.
"Yeah, and if she doesn't get it soon, she's going to get all itchy, and there's nothing worse than being itchy and not being able to scratch,"
Pinky said as she scratched her flank against the side of the fireplace in the living room. Zecora placed the medicine in her satchel and walked toward the door.
"Stay here and help your friend. Twilight's house is around the bend. I'll get there fast, and you will see she'll soon be as healthy as she can be."
Excusing herself, she left the cottage and galloped into town. Rarity saw the zebra gallop down the road, but quickly turned her attention to the Tasket hoof, finding a window where she could look in on her friends and the mysterious new stallion.
"Spike! How can this be Spike?"
Fluttershy asked in disbelief.
"Trust us, it's him,"
Applejack and Pinky said in unison. Spike filled her in on what happened, while Fluttershy sat patiently taking it all in.
"Are you sure that's everything?"
Fluttershy asked him. Spike nodded.
"I've never heard about anything like this before. Animals don't change into other animals. Have you asked Twilight?"
"Well, Twilight's been really sick, and I didn't want to bother her. I was coming here anyway to get her medicine."
While listening, Fluttershy noticed a hooded figure looking in her window and screamed in fright.
"What is it, Fluttershy?"
Spike asked, worried.
"There was some pony at the window,"
she said. The other three looked in the direction she was pointing to find the window with nothing in it but a view of the small stream in front of her house.
"You sure you saw something, Sugar Cube?"
Applejack asked.
"Yes, I'm sure of it,"
she confirmed. Pinky was already out the door and in the bushes around the house. Without warning, she popped up next to the white unicorn.
"Hiya, Rarity! What's with the hood?"
"Pinky, don't scare me like that!"
she shouted.
"Why are you sneaking around in the bushes? Come inside, there's some pony I want you to meet."
The two ponies walked into the cottage. Rarity hung up her cloak before addressing the others.
"Hello all, and what are we up to this evening?"
Rarity said, slowly walking towards Spike. Rarity?" Applejack interrupted.
"Is this the pony you wanted to introduce to me, Pinky?"
she asked.
"More importantly, I'm wondering why you didn't introduce this marvelous hunk of pony to me earlier, when you were talking next to the Founder's Fountain."
"But Rarity,"
Pinky said, trying to get a word in.
"I don't blame you wanting to keep him all to yourself. Who wouldn't? You could have at least brought him by to say hello,"
Rarity said, fluttering her eyelashes, her nose almost touching Spike's. Spike was blushing hard. His purple coat was turning red, a silly grin on his face. Never before had Rarity shown this much interest in him.
"But Rarity, this is Spike. We're trying to figure out how he got turned into a pony,"
Fluttershy informed her. Rarity laughed.
"You must be joking. How could this amazing specimen of pony be that lovesick little reptile?"
Spike couldn't believe his new pony ears.
"Rarity!"
Applejack shouted.
"That's no way to talk about Spike. He's done so much for you. You should be nicer to him."
Rarity waved her off with a hoof.
"Spike's just a friend. Well, more like an acquaintance. Truth be told, he's just a silly little dragon with a crush."
The purple stallion.
"Oh, don't get me wrong. He's excellent when it comes to lift and tote work, or when just about any type of manual labor needs to be done. That's reason enough to keep him around. But honestly, having that little dragon follow me around all day does get sort of bothersome. I really wish he'd understand that I'm not interested in him the way he's obviously interested in me." "Not that I can really blame him," she said. "Besides, what would ponies say if they thought I was romantically involved with a dragon of all things? You can understand that, can't you?"
she asked the purple stallion.
"Why, I'd be ruined. My dreams of being the greatest fashionista in Equestria would go up in proverbial flames. No, it simply cannot be, and I wish he'd realize that sooner than later."
The sound of Spike's heart shattering was almost audible. He was devastated.
"Is this how Rarity really feels about me?"
he thought to himself. Spike could feel a pain in his chest, growing with every moment. The former little dragon could not help the tears welling up in his emerald eyes. Rarity saw the expression on the pony's face.
"Darling, are you okay? Whatever is the matter?"
Trying to keep himself from crying, Spike ran out of the cottage as fast as he could, toward town, not really caring where he ended up.
"Nice job there, Rarity,"
Applejack said, reprimanding her.
"What are you talking about? Pinky, you agree with me, right? Right? Pinky?"
Pinky was already gone, chasing after Spike.
"Where did she go?"
"She probably ran after him, but I don't know if she's going to be able to catch up with Spike. He's pretty fast as a pony," Applejack said, scowling at Rarity before leaving the cottage to chase after Pinky and Spike.
"But I don't understand."
Rarity turned to where Fluttershy was standing, and received a slap across the face.
"How could you?"
The slap didn't hurt, but the point was driven home. What did hurt was the tearful look she got from Fluttershy before she ran out the door after Applejack.
"Oh, my dear Celestia, it was Spike,"
she thought to herself.
"I know Applejack and Pinky are prone to having a good joke at some pony's expense, but Fluttershy would never."
Rarity felt her cheek where Fluttershy had struck her.
"What have I done?"
Rarity ran out of the cottage, tears streaming from her eyes.
"Oh, Spike, I didn't really mean it. What's wrong with me? Why did I say those things?"
she chastised herself. Spike could indeed outrun them, even Applejack. Many times he considered going back to the library, but with Twilight being sick, he didn't want to cause her any more problems. Mile after mile passed, and he found himself on the outskirts of Canterlot. Spike was tired, but didn't feel like stopping at the moment. He walked a familiar route through the city on automatic. He didn't stop until he found himself at the overlook where he and Twilight used to stargaze. Spike collapsed from near exhaustion. Tears coursed down his cheeks. Unable and unwilling to stop weeping, Spike cried out the pain in his broken heart. Lost in his remorse, he didn't notice that a shadow had fallen over him.
"Hello, Spike." "Who's there?"
he said, breathing rapidly. A tall and slender, dark blue alicorn stepped out of the shadows. Her almost translucent blue mane fluttered and waved in a non-existent wind. The black crown atop her head was almost hidden in her mane, but her gilded silver shoes shone brightly in the moonlight.
"Princess Luna! How do you know who I really am?"
Luna smiled down at him.
"Oh, Spike," she said compassionately. "Just like my sister knows about most things that go on beneath the sun in our kingdom, I see quite a bit of what happens under the moon."
Luna placed a hoof on his shoulder.
"Everything that's happening right now must be terribly confusing, but come, you must be tired."
Luna beckoned him to follow her back to the palace. Spike struggled a bit to get to his hooves, but Princess Luna leaned against him, allowing Spike to stabilize himself.
"Are you okay to walk?" "Spike?"
Spike had walked to the edge of the overlook. Hundreds of hooves below him was the valley floor. Looking down, he could almost make out the road that winds through the Whitetail Woods.
After all I've done, all I've given, it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough.
Spike, Princess Luna asked, unfolding her wings. A small rock tipped over the edge. Spike watched it as it fell into open space.
It would be so easy, wouldn't it?
Spike said to no pony in particular. The tears had sprung anew from the purple stallion's eyes, each drop falling over the edge into oblivion.
What's the point anymore? She doesn't love me, she doesn't even like me, and she never did. It would be better to just... Spike, come talk to me, please, she asked. Please, Spike.
The purple earth pony looked back at the princess and saw the concern and worry written on her face. Slowly, he turned around and stepped away from the edge.
I'll be fine, Princess,
Spike said, as he fell to the ground, worn out and exhausted. Alright, I hope that was a solid start to this. I'm liking what I've seen so far, personally. Something that maybe worries me, especially going back and listening to this recording during the editing process, is that my voice may actually be getting steadily too deep for these imitations. Which I know is bound to happen someday, but hopefully not too soon. Hopefully how I sound in this one doesn't put anyone off, and everyone looks forward to the next part, which should hopefully be out soon. So until then, see y'all later, and for now, good night.